Hey everyone, Reed Hendricks with Valor Ridge. Been paying attention to the news lately? Believe we're reaching a boiling point. To get right into it, just this week, there was an unhinged 69-year-old Dutch immigrant that came here who is a member of the violent radical left. I guess that's a redundant phrase, isn't it? Well, up in Washington, he decided that he wanted to go and attack an Immigrations and Customs Enforcement detention center, and he wanted to do that with what better way to do it than with an incendiary device and a rifle. So this is what they've done, and of course this isn't the only time that they've done it up there. Well, this gentleman decided that he wanted to try to blow up the large propane tank, which supplied a lot of the energy for the building. Of course, he was stopped by law enforcement there and shot multiple times. Good job on the LE out there for dropping this guy. It's exactly what they should have done. And if this happens more frequently when it comes to the violent left, I think that you will probably see less and less of it. So that is a great thing to start with. Of course, this isn't the only time they did it. They've also tried to plant incendiary devices outside police departments up there as well, in Oregon as well as Washington. So now they're using incendiary devices and they're using firearms. Well, Reed, when did they use firearms against people? I don't know. Why don't you ask Congressman Steve Scalise when another violent radical leftist member decided that he was going to open fire at the congressional baseball game to shoot a political opponent, somebody that he disagreed with on ideological grounds. So there we have that example. Another example of lawlessness that we have is in the House of Representatives itself. Earlier this week, Nancy Pelosi, of course, brought false charges of the president in order to make a resolution to condemn the president for racism. Now, this is a word that I'm so tired of hearing because anybody who disagrees with them is a racist. So you could say, I like chocolate ice cream. You're racist. Like, it's a joke. Like, I joke around with people that are in my life all the time. If they disagree, I just say you're racist. I win the argument. Well, that's exactly what they've been doing. And anyway, Speaker Pelosi, and I hate using that term, I say that in quotations, Speaker Pelosi decided that she wanted to condemn the president for racist remarks. Of course, this was against the rules of the House. She was barred from speaking. So she broke procedure. She violated procedure. The violation was acknowledged by Congress. And at that point, against straight party line vote, her actions were voted to be legitimate. So they had a law. She broke the law. They acknowledged breaking the law. They changed the law. And that, to my eyes and ears, is every bit the example of lawlessness that you can expect to continue in the future. Laws will be changed. They will be modified to fit the current situation. It will be whatever the lawmakers feel like at the time of doing. So, to reiterate here, we have violence by the rabid left with explosive devices and firearms on one side. At the highest levels of our government and Congress, we have lawlessness on the House floor, where in the first time in modern history, a House Speaker was barred from speaking due to violations of procedure. Now, on the other side of the coin, where we're supposed to have political representation by the President of the United States, there was a rally in Greenville, North Carolina earlier this week. And at that rally, he mentioned some of the young congressional representatives whose views are so far left and outside the scope of normal Americans that they should be mocked. They should be ridiculed. These people should be mocked and ridiculed, not for who they are, but for what they believe. I'm sorry, but when you fail to denounce Al-Qaeda, all right, when you accuse people of dual loyalties simply because they support a biblical state, that's a problem. And furthermore, if that by itself, that I can understand all that. Like that by itself, whatever. But then when you're talking about socialism, that's a different thing altogether. Well, anyway, during this rally, you've got the crowd chanting, "Send her back." Now, I don't know about you, but I would love for her to be sent back. I would love for her to go back to Somalia, to some Civil War-torn hellhole where they don't even have modern technology. You know, where they can't even walk down the street without multiple wars taking place. You know, when you're living almost in the Stone Age. But now, nonetheless, she was airlifted by American tax dollars into this country when she was 12 years old, and then has proceeded for the last few decades to tell everyone how horrible America is and how much it needs to be changed. Well, no one asked you to come here. No one asked you to come here. Go back to where you came from. You'll fit in much better over there with your views. Now, keep in mind, the crowd is pretty upset about her and her views and what she wants this government to be. The crowd was very upset, shouted, "Send her back." Well, the president spoke at the end of that chant, changed direction, and just today has denounced the chant. Now I want you to think about what he denounced. This was his most loyal base. This was the people that got him elected. These were the people that waited hours in line, were screened by the Secret Service, that wanted to see him and hear him because they thought, hey, he speaks for me. And then just today he says, nope, they shouldn't have said it. I denounce it. When you're getting squeezed from the radical left, and then you have your so-called representative on this side squeezing you from this side, now you're in between a rock and a hard place. And I think we're fast approaching the time, and more people will realize this as time moves on, that we are truly on our own. And all you people out there, I've done a video about President Trump's stance on the Second Amendment, where I was very upset about what he has done, especially with the bump stock ban and proposed red flag bills. I agree with President Trump on about 90% of the issues, but on the 10% where I disagree with him, we've got major problems. We have fundamental differences in what this country is and what our rights are. So I guess the question is voting going to fix this? Well, back in 2016 in November, we handed the Republicans the country on a silver platter. They had an overwhelming majority in the House. They had more than enough wiggle room in the Senate, and they had the presidency. And all that came out of it was a tax bill that benefited some and did not benefit others. And if you are content to hold out your hands and have the scraps fall from the table, the crumbs fall from the table, and if you think that's a victory, well, we're in a sad state of affairs, aren't we? So what do? Do you vote? Do you keep voting? Do you keep going to the ballot box? Has the ballot box helped solve the situation, or has it gotten worse? Has the left toned down their rhetoric, or have they tuned it up? Do you have more Second Amendment or less of your Second Amendment now, 2.5 years into Donald Trump's presidency, than you did when you started? Have things gotten better? You know, and when you ask yourself, in some ways, yes, it has. In other ways, no, it has not. That if you think the left will ever accept the Founding Fathers, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and if you think that you have a guy in the Oval Office right now that respects individual liberty and freedom, folks, you need to take a couple of steps back and see the whole forest, not just individual trees. What do we do from here, Reed? What's your point of action? What do you suggest that we do? Do we just not vote and let the Democrats take the country over? What if we elect the Republicans? At least it'll slow the descent into hell. I'm in my late 30s. I don't know how old some of you are. Do I want this to go on till I'm in my 50s or 60s when I'm older and less physically capable? I don't know. Do you? Do you want to slowly pull the Band-Aid off, or do you want to rip it off and get it over with? I don't know. But here's what I do know. I do know 100% factually speaking, okay? I do know that we are at a time where more of our tax money is going to be demanded. We're at a time now where less and less of our freedoms are going to be available, the more laws that are passed by both Republicans and Democrats. And I do know this, that as technology advances, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to do things. My advice to you is to keep yourself mentally ready, keep yourself physically ready, and get yourself spiritually pure. Have your heart be pure. Guys, every day that you sit down and do nothing, every day that you fail to go to the range, every day that you fail to get together with like-minded people that you are close friends and family with, every day that you delay that just because everything's fine and we've got our guy in the White House, every day you delay that means that we get weaker and the socialists get much stronger. That I know what our forefathers did. I know that in 1774 that they started getting together. I know that they started training in the Massachusetts countryside as well as the Virginia countryside. I know that they got proficient. They were more and more convinced of the inevitable conflict that was coming their way, which culminated in Lexington and Concord. So let me ask you this. Do you think, with the rhetoric that the socialists are giving, that they are going to come take your guns away by force and that they are not going to allow the Second Amendment to continue in the form that it is? Do you think that we are more likely or less likely to have a certain kind of conflict? I will leave that up to the intelligent viewer. Folks, get trained, get ready, get historically literate, and understand our ancestors had a similar situation and they answered the call. If you found the information in the video helpful, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to learn how to use your firearm, come on out to Valor Ridge and we can help you do just that. This is Reed Hendricks with Valor Ridge reminding you the lessons that we learn are written on the tombstones of others. We'll see you on the ridge.